We go through the first portion of the basis text as outlined by the first 100 men and women who went before us, put this program of recovery in the first portion of the basic text. If you're new to this meeting, welcome. If you're coming back, welcome. If you're still drinking, welcome. Hopefully you have your big book tonight and a highlighter. We're going to be hitting up a lot of interesting stuff tonight. Please have an open mind and to help us with that, we have a perfect prayer for that. It's a set-aside prayer.
I know.
Dear God, please set aside everything I think I know about myself, this book, my illness, these steps, and especially about you, dear God, so that I might have an open mind and a new experience with all these things. Please help me to see the truth. Amen.
Amen. I'm a recovered alcoholic. My name's Tony. Sobriety date's April 8, 1989. Thanks for being a part of this, having us in your home, doing this shoulder to shoulder, that we could pass on our experience to those looking for a better experience with the book, maybe enhance their recovery. That's the whole point of this thing, right? To follow those that went before us that actually have a solution to the dilemma. The book talks about when we were approached by those with whom the problem had been solved, and there's a whole group of people here that not only understand alcoholism, but they were afflicted from it, right? And through a course of action and a program of recovery, they were able to recover from an illness that would otherwise have them dead or still drunk. So it's pretty wild stuff. Where we're at is we asked you to do some homework, and you really got to keep an open mind in it, because this is one of the most lot of misunderstanding around this, because there's a lot of influence from treatment centers and self-help groups. And that's not what this is really about, right? So if you've been following along, last week we looked at the promises. We asked you to read through Step 10 and find out if it was an action step or a transition step or preparation step. So far as we've gone through this, how many people, as we kind of look at the book, we see how many times it prepares us for the next action. How many people have seen that? Right? Like Step 1 prepared us for Step 2. Right? The more we understood Step 1, the more appealing Step 2 became. True or false?
True.
Right? And the example of all those that went before us that did this thing, seeing the impossible became possible, right? There was a solution to alcoholism, and they put their collective experience in our basic text. So they have a certain language and a certain idea and a collective experience that they're making available to us. So in order for us to have the same experience that they had and to carry this message, we need to do exactly what they did. But in order to do that, we need to understand what they're talking about. Would that make sense?
Yep.
Right? If you have, here in Canada, if you're going for your driver's license, a lot of people where I grew up learned how to drive without a license. Like I was stealing cars at 15 and 14 years old with no license. I knew how to effectively drive because I grew up on a farm part of the time or in foster care. So I learned how to drive. But would I be able to pass a driving test? No, because I don't have the same information all those who've studied and acquired the knowledge to do the road test or the written test. I didn't have that. Does that kind of make sense? Even though I was able to drive, but not very effectively. So when I got the manual to learn how to read it and to learn how to study it to get the same information all those who already had a license had, that put me in a better position to understand my road test. And when I did my road test based on my teaching of those that taught me who had a license, and I did everything that was acquired of me, how well do you think I did on my test? Really well. The guy asked me how long I've been driving for, right? That's how well I did on my test at 16, right? So this is kind of like really had a long day. It's been a long week, so I just finished work. I just got out of the shower and I'm sitting here, right? I haven't eaten, so bear with me if I get a little excited about this. I've been known to do that. I don't know why I still get this excited about this after this period of time, but I seem to get more revved up as the years go on, because this, to me, is like the Da Vinci's Code. Anybody remember the Tomb Raiders, that book, the movie The Tomb Raiders? They get this thing and they got to figure it out, and at the end of it there's this treasure, and they have all these obstacles that keeps them away from what they're seeking. Anybody remember that movie or that kind of theme? That's what this is. There's something really remarkable available to us, but there's something that keeps us from the experience. I don't know. Anybody figure what that is yet?
Alcoholism.
No, ourselves. Because we've seen that through the 4 step, how we've robbed ourselves from the happiness, joy, and the freedom because of the things that we're unable to detach from. Fear, resentments, harms, conduct. We see how these things really cut us off from the spirit, the human spirit that's really designed to govern us. Anybody notice that when they did their 5? Right? And when you remove that stuff, how many people have started to sense a real freedom and happiness as the result of the detachment of those things that we were carrying? Yeah. And if you haven't experienced it, then it sounds kind of foreign. It's the best thing I've ever heard this lady say. She was in a meeting. She says, all the explanation in the world can't explain our experience. But once you have our experience, no further explanation is necessary. That's why it talks about our experience, strength, and hope. It sounds so, once you experience it, you really get lit up from the inside out. Anybody ever watch people go through this and you see a whole new transformation within them? It's pretty hard. It's a phenomenon. That's why it says, if you want what we have. It didn't say, do you understand what we have? If you want what we have and are willing to go to any lengths to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps. And it's all outlined here. So when we went through this thing, we found out the basis of this thing, right? We found out the whole purpose of this thing was to get access to what?
Power.
Power, because what's our dilemma? Lack of power. It didn't say lack of thinking or lack of trying or lacking like philosophies and ideas. How many people tried to work on themselves for years and celebrated with a 24? That's right, and celebrated with a 24-hour chip.
Yeah.
Because we're approaching alcoholism as a behavioral problem. And when you sit in meetings and you were new and you didn't hear the information in the book or weren't 12 steps through the book, a lot of that stuff would make sense, right? It's a behavioral thing. And acceptance is the answer, and surrender, letting go. What that means is ignore it till you no longer ignore it. We're barriers. We're carriers, right? And we don't let go of nothing. Anybody?
No.
If acceptance really worked, then there would be 1 page in the book. Right? So when we got to our 4 step, how many people did a 4 step here the way the book's laid out? Man, it's amazing how much stuff we carry, eh? For people who are accepting, surrendering, and going to meetings and trying to be nice. And we're carriers. We see all this abscesses stuck to our spirit that blocks us off from the real source or the real thing, this power that we get access to. So by the time we finish the 4 step, we get access to certain prayers and ideas that we implement to create a shift within our own experience. So these things that used to drive us are no longer driving us. We're able to be an observer of them, which is really cool. The resentment, the fears, the harms, and the conducts. We're aware that what really drives these things is lack of power, right? That means I do things that I don't want to do, and I'm not doing things that I want to do. Why is that? Lack of power. Anybody ever engage in certain activities and you're telling yourself, I don't really want to do this, but you can't stop yourself from doing it? Anybody?
Yeah.
And you're talking yourself because you're looking for some form of, some sense of ease and comfort. That's why there's so many 12-step fellowships. There's a list of things that we use, people, places, and things to create a sense of ease and comfort. Anybody? And when that stuff don't work, we replace that person, place, or thing, because obviously they're the problem. So what we're looking for is a sense of ease and comfort. We're looking the same thing a drink did for us in people, places, and things. Gambling, sex, fighting, arguing, relationships, jobs, money, prestige. You see all these things. What are these things really designed for? Is to bring about the pursuit of happiness. But the more we pursue those, the more miserable and the more robbing we become, not only to us, but the people around us. Anybody get exactly what they wanted and then try to get rid of that? How many people has prayed for things and are so grateful when you got it, and then when you seen what it really was, you prayed to get rid of it?
Oh, yeah.
It usually takes twice as many prayers to get rid of the thing that you've been praying for. So we see that on page 54, they talk about this thing that governs us. And you can look at it later. We've already covered it, right? Our ideas, worship, and where we spend our energy, right? So we see that we do have a belief system. We do worship things, and we do spend energy in things that we don't want, right? Which is our belief system. We spend a lot of energy in negative things that we create within ourselves. Anybody find that in their thinking?
Yep.
So that's a form of belief. You believe that these things are going to come true, and that's where you spend your energy. Or worship is where you spend most of your thinking. Anybody spend a lot of time thinking about certain things? That's a form of worship, where you spend your energy. So we see all those things work toward our demise. We're a sum result of all our thinking, all our efforts, and all our ideas. How many people feel great about that? So at the end of 5, what I got at the end of step 5 was, I was the cause to all my problems, which was news to me. It was really news to me. I walked around to people and said, oh my God, I'm the cause of all my problems. They're going, hey, let's do the wave, finally, right? 11 years in another fellowship, I had no idea that I was the cause of all my problems, right? Yeah, everybody around me knew, but I didn't know, right? So we got the 4. We learned how to master resentments, or the recipe for mastering resentments, out of the 4 through the application of prayer, and learning how to become an observer. Yes or no?
Yep.
Then in the fear, we learned how to outgrow fear by acknowledging, step back from it, applying prayer, and redirecting our thinking. So we learned how to outgrow fear. True or false?
True.
Where did we learn that? In the 4. And it said, to the precise extent that we permit these things, we couldn't stop them from happening before, but now we're incorporated in a spiritual recipe that we could apply to our lives. Then it gives us our conduct. And we see how it really robs us from the relationships we really want, or we didn't get into. There's some form in there that we've created based on our belief system and based on our instincts. It's pretty interesting when you look at the relationship inventory there, right? Based on our conducts and our relationships and what they were formulated on. Then they ask you to redesign or reformulate your ideas on what you want your relationships to look like by incorporating prayer and meditation. Here you're in counsel with who in your 4th step?
Self.
No, you're in counsel with God. Remember in the sex inventory, we asked God to mold our ideas and help us live up to them. So we have a picture.
Yeah.
So we have a picture that we're working toward. You see how we create that picture? It's interesting. It's really important to see this idea that they present to us, that we create this picture. We have a template that hopefully that we're moving toward, and we see the destructiveness of these things, and that if they don't come into alignment with our spirit for ourselves, and our conduct continues to hurt others or cause us guilt, shame, and remorse, because anybody get caught up in conduct cause you guilt, shame, and remorse? Right? And if that continues to happen, we're sure to drink. So they're not theorizing, this is facts, right? So they say to reformulate. So when we fall short of the mark based on our instincts and the drive and stuff like that, that's why they talk about to yield would mean heartache. To yield from what? The right idea. And when we fall short of that, we hurt ourselves and we hurt other people. Anybody notice that? Or we get into situations that we don't want to get into, and we get remorseful and regret, and people get hurt and things happen. Anybody? And then now you're in a relationship that you've created that's conflict based, because it's not the right idea, and you're trying to change the relationship in the relationship. And it's usually just one person trying to change it, because both of you are not on the same page going into it, because you didn't do your homework going into it, and it's usually instinct-based. Nobody have relationships here that are instinct-based? Yeah. He's got a good job, or she's really good looking, or. So we base it on the delusion that's being presented and not the... Anyway, that's a whole different topic. But the whole idea is you have an idea that you work towards. So where we're at now, when we kind of look at, we just finished the promises, right? And the idea of this thing, I asked you to read through it, and you maybe want to put your comments in the chat or on a piece. Is step 10 a working step, or is it a transition step, according to the book? Not according to what you've been taught or what you think. According to the book. When you read the book, is it a transition step or is it a working step?
Let's see what the chat says.
Because you hear
So far
people...
we got,
So you hear people say all the time, I work on steps 10, 11, and 12. How many people hear that? So where's your focus? Your focus is on you working 10, 11, and 12. That's not the focus of this thing, is it? Our real purpose now is to what? To fit ourselves to be of maximum service to who? To God and the people around us. So our focus doesn't come from us fixing us. We realize that it's a byproduct of my relationship with a power greater than myself, because lack of power is my dilemma. So when I'm spiritually right, I'm able to match calamity with serenity. Anybody notice that? When you're spiritually right, life's a lot better. And you don't know why, but you're not attached to anything. You seem like you're on a higher frequency. How many people notice that? Days that everything, the sun's shining, there's no problem, not a care in the world. How many people's had days like that? And you're usually pretty spiritually connected. And when you're not spiritually connected, you realize how problems keep on piling and multiplying, and how you get more focused on you. So we see that the problem is the more you focus on you, the more the problem increases, because you're becoming instinct-based again. You're not spiritually based. So step 10 is a transition step, which usually gets people, we should lose about 10 people here, right? Because they get the idea, no, it's a working step. Well, let's see what the book says. So if you're at home reading this thing, not the way we've been taught. You hear people say, well, we do one step a year, or I can't do step 10 until I finish step 9. You ever hear that crap in meetings? You get mean people talking about it's so trying to be nice bullshit. These people do not know what they're talking about. They're killing people with that crap. And you know what? The new people don't know that they don't know what they're talking about, right? Because they don't have the education. So as you read this, you become educated to see what it really is based on their experience that I'm trying to incorporate with my life. So when we finished 6 and 7, they said, let's look at 8 and 9. Did they not say that? Let's look at it. And we're going to go over all this stuff that we need to work on. So by the time we go through all these different scenarios, which we're going to cover a couple of them, and then we get to page 80, backing up fully right. So then we get to, they talk about here, where the hell am I, Joe? Where's the promises? Tornado. Okay, so page 83, I was here.
83.
So they talk about, here's the big word, if. Everybody see that? If. If we're painstaking about this phase of our development. What phase? The amends phase. Right? So those who already done the amends are talking in their
experience.
Have we started the amends yet? Remember, we just finished 6 and 7.
No,
pardon? So we're reading through.
We're just looking at.
So we're reading through this. So now they're going to go into the promises, and before we're halfway through, right? Because it's more than just the amends that they're talking about here. They're talking about also your relationship with Source, to see how this power and the reliance comes, and the byproduct of that is the peace of mind and the contentment and the new happiness and new freedom. We'll suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we couldn't do for. That's the basis of the promises. From that stems all the promises. Without that relationship, then it's behavioral modification. Anybody here ever try to make amends and you weren't right inside yet? Anybody go and it didn't, and then you can't stop the grouch and the brainstorm, and you can't change the energy inside of you. Then you owe an amend for the amend. How many people had to make amend for the amend here? Right? That's before, or you go to make amends that benefit you, because you don't understand what this whole process is about. So before I did this, I did it the way the fellowship was saying, and one time I said, oh, I'm going to go to Toronto make amends to my ex-girlfriend. Make reservations in a restaurant, candlelight dinner. We know what amend I was trying to make, right?
Oh yeah.
But I couldn't see it because I thought I was kind, loving, and so I owed an amend for the amend. But I couldn't see it because I was blinded by self. I was still driven by all these things, right? I wasn't able to step back, assess, or seek counsel with another human being because I didn't start the spiritual process yet. It was still self trying to fix self. Or I turn around and I'll go make amends to these old employers hoping I'll get hired again. Anybody? I'll go to make amends to these people to try to borrow more money from them. Well, like it goes on and on. Anybody here? Or I'll go make amends to them to really confirm how much of an asshole they were and how nice I am now. How many people have been there? You see, left to self is really interesting. So they're saying here is that, on page 84, are these extravagant promises? Or what extravagant promises? What they just talked about, this transition through going through this process. Have we gone through the process yet? No. So we're still reading about it, right? And so they talk about these promises. They will, are these extravagant promises? We think not. They're being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slow. They'll always materialize if we work for them. Work for what? Mending these spiritual fences. So we see that 9 is really about these people finding healing and carrying a message and being an example of something greater than ourselves. Interesting, isn't it? That we're going to them that we may be of service by carrying a message, by being an example of something that's happened in our life, and they see the transformation in our life that one day may help them or somebody they know. Interesting, right? Because what's our job? Is to fit ourselves to be maximum service to ourselves. No, to God and the people around us. Right? That's what this reminder is. This is all about the relationship. Step 3 prayer was an idea that this relationship was possible. What relationship? That if I built this relationship with God or a power greater, so I could get relief from the bondage of self, right? That will take away my difficulties, that I have victory over them, that I may bear witness of His power, His love. Does that kind of make sense? But I need to experience that in order to carry this message. Big difference, right? On page 184. See to it that your relationship is right. What relationship? With God. And all remarkable things will follow. All the way through here is about our relationship. Yes or no? How many times does it tell us to work on ourselves here?
Never.
So, and then on page, when we're reading this, it talked about here, which is the hint. On 83, they talk about doing step 11. The only step they talk about in the book is doing step 11. How many people's noticed that?
Yeah.
It's all about step 11. What's step 11? Is the relationship. Is the continuation of the idea. So we see that step 3, what confirms step 3, the idea, is the experience in 11. What confirms step 2 is step 12. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so now, here we go. They'll always materialize if we work for them. This thought. What thought? The promises. This thought of the idea that this experience is available to me. Because is it available to me just sitting here reading it, just finishing 6 and 7?
No.
But I'll feel good about doing 6 and 7 and 5. How many people felt good after doing 5?
Oh, yeah.
But it's not the same extent as they're talking about here because I'm still plagued with self.
Yep.
How many people were really found it really interesting that when you finished 6 and 7, that you were still carrying some stuff from your past?
Oh, yeah.
Anybody have family here?
Yep.
You want to see how spiritual you are? Go to a family dinner. Yeah. Let the games begin, right? Or run into somebody that caused you harm in the past. You see how spiritual you are, right? You forgive everybody but your exes. Anybody here?
Yep.
Anybody still carry? Anybody notice that after 6 and 7, you're still carrying things from your past that was still eating your lunch? That you still weren't sitting alone in your meeting room in the board meeting? There was still a whole bunch of people up there talking to you. Anybody ever sitting quiet and things from the past come back? Come on. And you're revisiting, refeeling. You see that idea? So, look at this. I just finished 6 and 7. I did my 5. I feel great. But there's still some attachment here. Isn't that interesting? And a lot of it has to do with my amends. Well, what makes you say that, Tony? Well, how many people, when you finished 6 and 7, you looked at your amends list, got focused on the amends you didn't want to do? Come on. How many people started thinking about those sons of a bitches that you weren't going to make amends to? Right? So right away, yourself has created a stumbling block within inside of yourself, and that's what you're focused on. I'm not going to do those. I'm not going to. You're in counsel with self again, and self says, no, this is where I draw the line. But we're feeling better. That's why they asked, they re-emphasized, right, your commitment that you did in 3. Remember in 3 it says, we thought well before taking the step, making sure we're ready to do it, that we could at least abandon ourselves. They use the word abandon our course of action for a new one. But in order to do that, you need to be an observer of both realities. The spiritual process that's in front of you as a road you can take, or self. And that's the principle of step 3. So, the steps turn into principles. How many people know that? This is interesting because step 1 becomes, the principle of step 1 is, people say, is assessing what the problem is. To be able to assess in any area of your life, to step back from it and assess the emotional attachment or the difficulties in the situation, the assessment. Step 2 is, the principle is, what's the spiritual solution to this problem? Yes or no? Step 3 is, do I want to pursue the spiritual answer or do I want to be my own solution here?
Yeah.
Anybody have that? Pray for them now after I'm done beating them up. Anybody?
Yep.
Just show of hands here. How many people so that's what they're talking. So this thought brings us to step 10, which suggests what, Joe?
Lucia.
This thought brings us to step 10, which suggests we continue to
Okay, so hold it. Continue. Continue what? Everything we learned in what steps? 4 and 5. 8 and 6 and 7. It's a continuation of this recipe. You should be already incorporating that because you started mastering resentment, yes or no?
Yep.
You start looking at the people who've harmed you differently by applying these prayers. Yes or no? Right? You understand their symptoms now. So you learned that. You understand what fear looks like, and you're able to step back from it and redirect your energy along spiritual lines. You understand what harmful conduct is now, and how your conduct has hurt other people. That's why that list of people we hurt by our conduct. Interesting. So you have it says continue it because these are the blocks that block me off from source. So I'm continuing that, right? Yes? Yep. No? Remember, pretend this is the second day I'm reading this. I've just finished this stuff. I've just read through all the 8s and 9s. I just read through the promises. Continue to do this, but now let's start a new conversation. Go ahead.
Continue to take personal inventory and continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along.
As we go along from the amends process. Because remember, we have 2 ways of looking at things. You have the new way, how you see these people, places, and things. And then you have the old way of how you see these people, places, and things. Anybody? Come on. And when you're spiritually right, you see these people correctly. And when you're not spiritually right, you see them how you used to see them. And inside, anybody notice the narrator, what happens in your thinking? When you're spiritually right and you're willing to make amends, there's a different energy attached to these people. But if you're not spiritually right, there's a different energy attached to these people. Anybody? You got the new story, old story? And if you're not right and you go to make amends or you do something, you're bound to be driven by step 6 is a defect carried from the past. Anyways, go ahead.
We vigorously commenced this way of living as we cleaned up the past.
So the saying, wait. We vigorously commenced this way of living as we cleaned up the past. Have we started cleaning up the past yet?
No.
Remember, we're reading here, right? So
Yeah,
they're saying we vigorously commenced this way of living as we clean up the past, right? Go ahead.
Yeah.
We have entered the world of the Spirit.
Stop. Stop. Wait. Let's break this down because people read real through this real fast. We have entered the world of the Spirit. We've entered the world of the Spirit. Our spirit is now connected. We're connected. In 164 it says we're connected in a fellowship. There's a second fellowship. We're connected spiritually now. We're connected to the spiritual realm. Spirit of the universe. We're connected differently. We've just entered the world of the Spirit. Now we see how God operates, or this power operates not only in our lives, but other people's lives. All these people on the screen here in front of you are examples of God's portfolio. We're all connected through the same source that makes the impossible possible. Most of us are no longer dying of alcoholism. Is that not a miracle? That's what they're saying here. We've entered a different dimension. I call it, the book calls it, I read it as the 4th dimension. We're no longer instinct-based. Interesting, right? So we just entered this world of the Spirit. We're functioning different. We see things differently. We're starting to have a different experience. Follow me on that? So that's what we're saying. We just entered there. So you're in a new dimension, right? And you know where this lies. It comes from within. Anybody tuned into that now? Because we're moving from the peanut gallery into where this thing is, deep down within, this energy field within us that we couldn't get to before. Right now we know what it feels like to be sitting in the Spirit. Anybody here? Yep. To be free of the confusion in your mind, the attachment. We were able to find the sense of ease and comfort, and we just entered it. So it's like I've just landed on vacation. It's like, wow, look at this. What's my next function? If you just land in a new location, your next function is to learn how to function in that new place, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be?
Gotta find a place to sleep. Gotta find where the restaurants are. Gotta find things.
Yeah. Where's the beach? Where's the water? I'm going to make the most of this vacation. Yeah. Right? And anybody ever been on vacation here? Mm-hmm. See, how many people brought you with you on vacation and it was just like sitting at home? You're thinking you're not on vacation because you're still there. You're getting sunburnt, but you're not on vacation. You still got you with you. You're not free, right? But the transition, what they're saying here, once you go through customs and you land, you're not carrying nothing from the past. You're in a new, wow, I've just entered the world of the Spirit. So I've just landed in Cuba, in other words, or some tropical island, Hawaii, whatever. You get the picture here?
Yep.
I've just said, I come off the plane and I'm wearing a winter jacket. It's kind of like, well, that's got to go. Okay, go ahead. Now what do they say?
Our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness.
Our next function. They're just saying something here now. Remember, it says continue these thoughts and these ideas. We've just entered the world of the Spirit, which is the whole purpose of this whole thing, is it not? Spiritual kit of tools to get access to this power, yes or no? Lack of power is our dilemma. We just entered our next function. Now they're giving you an instruction. Well, what's the instruction? Our next function is to what? To grow in understanding and effectiveness of what?
Power.
The spiritual realm, the spiritual world. sounds wild. Remember on page 63, they talk about where he is the Father, we're his agents. Right? He'll provide all that we need if we keep close to him. Right? So that means I'm connected differently. That means things are being looked after before I'm even involved in them. If I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, connected to source, my life's already lined up. All I need to do is stay in the moment and remarkable things will start happening. And I need this as I go do my nines. I need this access to see how God works, see how his fingerprints end up in my life. And as I start seeing that, as I do my nines, I become amazed, and that becomes my foundation or my belief system that no longer gets shaken as time goes on. So when I go through the rough times now, I look back how I've been looked after and how God showed up in the most remarkable ways to grow in effectiveness understanding. It's like a lot of people, when I was doing a part of my nines, I'll make this real fast. This is what they mean by that, being able to see God's fingerprints. If I'm trusting and relying on God, I took a bus from Vancouver to Quebec, stopped at all these different places. Long story short, at the last part of the trip, I was beside myself. I said, God, you said you're going to look after me. I don't feel it. I stopped at all these bus depots where we're doing a transition from buses. And I was asking any friends at Bill W. This is before cell phones, right? I got a cassette deck. I'm listening to cassette deck to let you know, right? And I'm going back to visit these people I haven't seen in 16 years. I was on the last part of the trip. And I said, God, you promised on 63 that you'd look out. I'm talking to God like this. You're dropping the ball, buddy. I'm not feeling it. Like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be. Like I'm having this conversation. This person goes beside, like I'm sitting there going like this in my chair, right? Like newcomer shuffle, right? Like just like my brain is eating my lunch and I'm participating, right? Like I'm in full conversation with self and God, right? Like buddy. Right? And something is God goes kind of, whoa. This lady beside me goes, are you okay? I said, yeah, why? Like, newcomers, yeah, why? Right? We don't see how we're acting, but everybody around us like, whoa. And she goes, what's going on? I said, I got to go visit these people. I haven't seen them in 16 years. It's kind of like this process I got to do, and as part of this thing that I'm in. She goes, I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous for the last 20 years. Enter the world of the spirit. I could have sat on any seat on that bus. I sat in front of the bus. I never sit on front. I sat in the front of. I sat in that seat, and she sat beside me. Enter the world of the spirit. I was able to talk to her for the rest of the trip. I got spiritually grounded, and I was able to make process. This is entering the world of the spirit. And I got a lot of stories, but go ahead.
This is not an overnight matter.
What? What do you mean it's not an overnight matter? Katie, did you hear that? Oh my God, this is not an overnight matter. Shit. Okay, what do you mean by that? That means there's some work to be done. You're still in the way of you. You're robbing you of what's available here, right? There's the world of the spirit, and then there's your instinct-based living. You know what your instinct-based living looks like, but I don't fully know how to function, to operate in the world of the spirit. But that's my next function, is to learn how to do that. The pretty wild stuff here. How many people's read this kind of theme in Step 10 before? Interesting stuff. It's getting better. Go ahead.
It should continue for our lifetime. Continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear.
Watch for, not work on. Watch for. Anybody ever drive their car? You watch for potholes and wildlife. But if you spend your whole drive looking for potholes and wildlife, you miss the whole point of the drive. It becomes an anxiety-based drive. Let's go for a nice drive in the country. Oh, what are you doing? Oh, potholes, bad, bears. You have so much anxiety, and then everybody in the car starts having anxiety. Anybody? Anybody ever drive with a crazy driver? It's no fun no more. Okay, go ahead. When these things crop up means it's already there. To crop up means it's not something new. It's something from the past coming up again. Crop up. Interesting on the wording there, right? Why would these things crop up? Because I'm still learning how to sidestep, rearrange, let go of, and recreate a new story. But I'm still stuck a lot with my old thinking, my old ideas. I'm still in negotiation or in counsel with who? Self. Because I haven't learned how to develop this recipe yet. Go ahead.
When these things crop up, we ask God at once to remove them.
Where did we learn how to do that?
6 and 7.
Yeah, but step 4, right? Prayer, acknowledgement, right? So continue, right? When these things crop up, go ahead.
We discuss them with someone immediately and make amends quickly if we have harmed anyone. Then we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. Love and tolerance of others is our code.
And we'll see that this happens more when we're not living in 11. People who are living in step 10 are not living in 11. And if you're living in 11, you're not really living in 10. It's a summary, right? If you're spiritually right, if you're in conflict every day with people, places, and things, I think you're missing something. Wouldn't you say so? Okay, go ahead.
And we have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. For by this time, sanity will have returned.
So when are they clarifying this is going to happen? Now that I'm reading it, now that I'm reading through step 10? No, as the result of going through this course of action and cleaning up my past and entering the world of the Spirit, I'm kind of putting this whole thing together. So somewhere along the line in the spiritual appendix in the back of the book, they say usually what takes place in a few months. So they're saying from the time I finish my 5, 6, and 7, there's a process that I need to start going through in order for me to recover from this thing. This is not happening just because I'm reading it, because I haven't started my 9s. This thought brings us to step 10. If we're painstaking about this phase of our development, they're talking about somewhere along the line as the result of doing my 9s and living in 11, we'll find out, which is a part of this thing, is living in 11, sanity will have returned. There will be a total transformation in my thinking. Something will click somewhere along the line where I'm in more counsel with something greater than me than myself. And I'll be amazed before I'm halfway through, and I'll suddenly realize that God's doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. Are these... No, they're being fulfilled among us. Are they happening now? No, not yet. Because we're reading these new ideas. A continuation of stuff that we learn, develop, and keep going, right? Go ahead.
We will seldom be interested in liquor. If tempted, we recoil from it as from a hot flame.
So that means you're going to be tempted. You're going to think about it again. But based on truth in your spiritual condition, you will recoil from it. Anybody? How many people have been to meetings where people say, I don't think about it anymore? Really? Really? My wife leaves a bit of wine on the table. I don't know why she does it. She rinses I told her, rinse the glass out. Just don't let it sit there. A part of my brain goes, yee-hoo, drink it. I thought, where the hell that come from? It's the id. It's just the crazy stuff that goes through it. Anybody think crazy thoughts here? Not this group? Anybody have thoughts that just kind of go, oh my God, what was I thinking? And it kind of alarms you a bit? That would be the idea around a drink too. It'd be that just this crazy thought. Where the hell did you come from? You know, anybody, I get crazy thought. It's the id. It's just this thing that just doesn't make any sense when I do. Sometimes when I go grocery, I'll see somebody bent over grabbing some stuff, like what Joe's doing. And a part of my brain will go, slap him on the ass. Why would I do that? My brain goes, just slap him, just get whack, right? Or sometimes when we travel, it's been a while since we did it, but I'd sit down and my wife goes, oh, you had that thought again, eh? I said, yeah, I'd get myself anxiety. I'm opening the emergency hatch door. I'd stand and look at it. Open it. That's fucking crazy. I don't want to open it. See, yeah, open it. It's like Gollum, right? The ring. Precious. I was going to get that tattooed on this side of my ear. Thing was always talking to me, right? Huh?
No.
Yeah. So that's what they mean when tempted and stuff like that. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, my God.
We react sanely and I'm going to mute you, Joe. We react sanely and normally, and we will find that this has happened automatically. We will see that our new attitude toward liquor has been given us without any thought or effort on our part. It just comes. That is the miracle of it.
Yeah. So when does it come? Somewhere along this process. Remember, we're just reading through 10. It's confirming our next step is preparing us, right? Somewhere along the line, it's going to happen. If some people say, "Oh, I'm still thinking about it. I just finished my 4 or my 5. I'm still being told the idea or the romance of it or that's just crazy thinking." Somewhere along the line, because you're still a lot affected by self, and alcohol has always been our solution. How many people?
Yep.
Right? But based on truth, you're able to smash the idea. Remember, Bill talked about that. Bill talked about he was plagued by what? Depression and resentment that nearly drove him back to drink. One of the founders talks about that. But what saved the day was incorporating this message, meaning these principles and helping another alcoholic would save him from himself. But he had to learn how to apply this message. He was in counsel with something greater than himself. You see what's happening here? So somewhere along the line, not just because you're reading it, somewhere along the line from here, and as you go start cleaning up your past, there's going to be a new freedom and happiness come in. You're going to see God working in your life in a way that's been absolutely foreign to you, and you're going to be amazed about it. You're going to be so like, wow, this is absolutely amazing. And then you're going to come back to us and say, we've been underselling this thing this whole time. Right? Go ahead. Go ahead.
That is the miracle of it. We are not fighting it, neither are we avoiding temptation. We feel as though we had been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. We have not even sworn off. Instead, the problem has been removed.
Removed? What problem? Alcoholism. We're no longer suffering from alcoholism. We've recovered. Somewhere along the line, we've recovered. Because alcoholism is above our pay grade. We don't work on our alcoholism. We already admitted we're beyond human aid. This is something God takes care of. I admit I can't take care of this. But God says, hey, I can look after this thing for you, but we need to work out a little deal here. We need to come to certain understanding and terms, right? So I could do this for you, but now we're in this together. You're not in this alone. We're in this together, right? This is a working partnership, right? This is not a dictatorship. This isn't a hostage taking. This isn't, you're in this with me because you've seen the benefit of being in this with me, right? You get what I'm saying here? Anybody picking up what I'm putting down? This is not like I'm not here because I have to be here. I'm here because I want to be here. I see the benefit of being here. I see my life way better being here than doing it alone. Being convinced any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. I don't have to be convinced of that anymore. I know what my life looks like with me running it. Huh? Coming in hot, baby. Coming in hot. Just like, woo, coming in. And we go, oh, it's not that bad. Really? Just putting a fire, hair on fire, everything burnt to the ground. But we've become so conditioned to that condition that it's really, when you look back on it, how many people are amazed that they even survived? That's it. And when you see the miracle, what's the miracle? That we're not dying of alcoholism anymore. Like, can you pick up what I'm putting down here? That is, when you see that gift, what they're going to get into here, it puts you in a whole different perspective here. Right? That I'm no longer fighting this thing. Now I'm dealing with the human dilemma. And I'm applying these spiritual principles to my spiritual condition, where alcohol no longer becomes my solution again, where the insanity doesn't return. You see what they're saying here? And let's see how they qualify that again. Go ahead.
Instead, the problem has been removed. It does not exist for us.
Right.
We are neither cocky nor afraid.
Yeah, right? So, I mean, if you hear people say, I work on step 1 every day, I do step 1 every day. Well, no, we don't. Because we'd never survive. right? The problem's removed. We have a new employer, being all powerful. He provides. We have a new experience. We're no longer afflicted with alcoholism. What that means is I still have the allergy. I'm still allergic to pistachios, but I have no desire to eat them. And there's no malady in my mind that's ordering any. I know exactly where they are in the pantry. I see them every once in a while and I chuckle. Right? Does that kind of make sense? There's whatever. Okay, go ahead.
That is our experience. That is how we react, so long as we keep in fit spiritual condition.
So that's the catch right there. I need to stay in fit spiritual condition. In order for me to be in fit spiritual condition, who do I need to be in counsel with? What do I need to be connected to? To source, to power, to God, whatever you want to call it, creative intelligence. I need that personal relationship. As long as that relationship's there, will I drink again?
No.
You remove the relationship, will I drink again?
Yes.
100%. Right? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So that's what they're saying here. So the whole thing, I need to stay in fit spiritual condition. Have they showed me how to do that yet?
No.
They told me about the blocks, things to watch out for, but have they shown me how to keep in fit spiritual condition yet?
No.
Have they given me the recipe on how to do that?
Yep. They haven't shown you how to do it yet.
Well, to remove the blocks.
That's it.
Right? And how to acknowledge these things and apply prayer. But to keep in fit spiritual condition and grow in understanding and effectiveness, I haven't got that recipe yet. I'm about to sit in the car and learn how to drive it. I'm about to put everything together that I'm about to go do my road test.
Yep.
I have everything I need to do my road test. They said, is everything in place? Do you have everything? Great. As long as you do these things, maintain these ideas or principles, you should be okay. Does that kind of make sense? That's the best analogy I have, right? Okay, go ahead.
Good.
So, now, here it goes.
It is easy to let up on the spiritual program of action and rest on our laurels.
What that means in short is my achievements. I feel good. Life's fantastic. I don't need to go any further. This is what I wanted to achieve. They're saying, wait a minute here. That's not the deal. That's not the deal with you feeling better. Remember, the deal was, I'll provide all that you need if you are willing to be my agent or perform my employer or my employee, whatever. This relationship, right, is like I'm happily married. Why? Because I'm in relationship with my wife. Right? And the more conclusive that relationship, the happier we both are. It's really interesting how that happens. But if it was just one-sided, how well would that relationship work? So we're in a relationship here. Go ahead.
We are headed for trouble if we do, for alcohol is a subtle foe. We are not cured of alcoholism. What we really have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition.
What we really have is a daily reprieve. A daily reprieve means a state of sentence. I'm still on death row, but not today. Not today. The phone call came through this morning. Give them another day. Give them another day. Does that kind of make sense? Right? But I get to enjoy a lot more yard time now. Right? I'm really enjoying my life now because I got another day. When you start looking at your life like that, I got another day that a lot of people who are like us never get. Never get another day. And the gift that you've got sitting, you get to determine what your life looks like now. You've given a recipe that you get to formulate exactly what your life looks like. But we better give you a recipe on how to develop that to something beyond anything you could ever imagine. We're going to show you how to develop the story of Alcoholics Anonymous in your life. Because it's not your story anymore. It's our story. We're going to show you how to have our story. And the narrator is God. If you don't like that, it's okay. Another 24-hour chip will change your mind, right? Well, I don't apologize for God. The life I live today is phenomenal. Why? Because of my relationship, right? So, what we really have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. Have they showed us how to maintain our spiritual condition yet?
No.
So here's the transition. It's an idea. It's moving through. And I'm glad you're feeling good here. Somewhere along the line, you're going to be experiencing this stuff. But hey, wait a minute. You're headed for trouble because remember the deal you made.
That's right.
Can we abandon it? Well, our confirmation in step 3. So when we do step 3 now is I'm not redoing it. I'm just confirming it.
Yeah.
So it's not like, God, I offer myself. God, I'm reconfirming my commitment to you. That should be the prayer. My wife, every morning I don't wake up and go, are we still married today? Are we still married today? Well, today I like a day. I'm like, that doesn't happen. Every morning I get up, I say, I love you. Anything I could do, how can I be of help, how I could be of service? Is there anything I could do to make your life better? We walk together. Every morning I wake up and reconfirm the commitment I made 11 years ago when we stood before God, our friends, and a past. Does that kind of make sense? So it's a different kind of prayer, right? Go ahead.
Every day is a day when we must carry the vision of God's will into all of our activities.
Do we know how to do that yet?
No.
Listen to this, because most people are stuck on step 3. I give God my will all the time. No, then you don't understand what's happening here. Because you don't give God you can't give God your will. It's your gift. It's yours. What you do with it. In 3, I had to the care of. Can you look after this? It's just like when my truck had a recall, right? Because there was something defective. It didn't have it working right. I gave it to the dealership to the care of them that when they put it through the process, when they returned it to me, that defect or that character would be solved. And they gave it back to me. They didn't keep it.
And then you could use the proper use of it.
That's it. So,
how can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. These are thoughts which must go with us constantly. We can exercise our willpower along this line all we wish. It is the proper use of the will.
So have they showed us how to do the proper...
Oh,
wait. Have they showed us how to do the proper use of the will yet?
No.
Or to do these activities and all our... So these are ideas. This is a big picture. The same picture that we had way back with our own selves in regards to our conduct. We came up with this picture, what we wanted our lives to look like, and we asked God for the strength and the power to move toward that idea. Right? So every day we work closer and closer to the idea. Here they're giving us the idea what it looks like, what we're trying to do, what we're getting ready to do, what we're preparing you for. Does that kind of make sense? So look, it's the proper use of will. So that means I am responsible for how I conduct myself. And my relationship, it's the proper use of will. But if I don't know what that looks like, I'll be still governed by who? Self. So what they're saying is, let's relax. We're going to show you how to do this now. We're going to show you the proper use of will. Watch the rest of the wording here. Keep an open mind here. This is what this whole thing is about. This whole book, everything we've done to this comes up to this one pivoting point. You know what a pivoting point is? It's a point where you're lifting, and somewhere along the line, it moves in a new direction.
Yep.
This is the pivoting point to the whole process. This is the whole purpose of the first 84 pages, the doctor's opinion, the forwards, the spiritual appendix, your sponsor, the fellowship, the meetings, the caring. This is the whole purpose to the whole thing. Anybody?
Let's read it.
Let's find out.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Much has already been said about receiving strength, inspiration, and direction from him who has all knowledge and power.
True or false? True or false?
True.
Here's the qualifier. Remember the biggest word in the book. If. If is the qualifier. Anybody remember as a kid? Can I have dessert? Well, if you finished your dinner? Can I have my allowance? If you cleaned your room. Anybody remember if? If you do that again. If you do that again. Anybody? You don't need it. What? You don't need if explained after that, do you? Everybody knows what if means, right? Anybody? Everybody understand what if means? Yes or no? Here they're using it. If. If what? Go ahead.
If we have carefully followed directions.
Not your directions, our directions. Our understanding, our experience. If you've carefully followed what we've been putting down, if you've been picking up what we've been putting down, it's not your program, it's not our program. If you've done what we've done, then you should be at the same place we were when we did this. If carefully follow directions.
We have begun to sense the flow of His Spirit into us.
Begun. The transition. It's the acknowledgement of the world of the Spirit. Remember, this tying this whole thing together. We've begun. What was the whole purpose of this? Remember, in the fifth step, we may have had certain spiritual beliefs, but now we begin to have a spiritual experience. We know where and how to locate this power deep down within. We have access to this thing. Well, what is this thing that they're going to call that we need to develop or harness? Give us a couple more minutes here. Okay, go ahead.
To some extent, we have become God conscious.
Right on.
We have begun to develop this vital sixth sense.
So that was the whole purpose of this thing. To home in to this thing deep down within, this sixth sense, this consciousness, this power, whatever you want to call it. It don't care what you call it. It's a frequency. It's a higher order within inside of ourselves that moves us from a Neanderthal experience to a spiritual experience. It moves you, it shifts you of something inside of you. How many people's experienced that shift? When you're in your conscious, it's something that is really remarkable. You move out of the cheddar factory in your head into the consciousness, that Bill and all these members in a spiritual experience talking about. When you experience, it's kind of like, wow. When you hear that voice or that sense, this thing deep down within, you understand what it's saying. You've tuned into it. It's like a radio station. Remember those old radio stations? It was all fuzzy before, but now you got the dials and you hooked in. There it is, deep down within. I got it. This is my sixth sense. What do I do with it now?
But we must go further, and that means more action.
But we must go further. That means nothing previous to where we were. Remember, it talks about now we're going farther than this. We're moving into a whole new area now. Now, if you experience this thing, now we're going to move on. Move on from what? We're going to tie this all. So this week, read Step 11 every day. And read not what you think it says, read how they do it. Read it like how they do it. And next week we're going to cover this thing. It's a game changer. Really read it with like you've never read it before, and read it with the ideas that you're looking at how they do Step 11 and what they're trying to show you on this thing. And read all the way through this that we see this is the instructions on how to do 10. This is the instructions on how to develop this thing. This is the instruction to grow an understanding of an effectiveness. This is the instructions on how to align my will with God's will. This is the instructions to be free of my past and recreate a new experience every day of my life. Every day. Not to carry anything from the past or in the future. To be present. The recipe's in here. Read it this week. It's really cool. I just get carried away sometimes. Joe, love you, Joe. Joe's 3-year cake. When is it, Joe?
It was yesterday. I'm gonna take it on my Sunday Big Book study. So if you're there, I'm gonna do a little thing on Sunday morning. Also, my Sunday mornings are gonna be switching. This week it won't. It'll be the regular time at 11:15. But the following week, it'll be going to 12:30. I'll be starting at 12:30. Also, for this group, we've got Big Book Study Workshop sheets. Our 7th tradition, it's up in the chat right now. The PayPal link, that goes towards paying for this Zoom meeting and all our other meetings. So this one Zoom room, your contributions go to keeping the Tuesday, the Wednesday, the Thursday, and the Sunday meetings alive. And then those contributions pay for just this room. The rest go to GSO. We've donated in the last 3 months. We've donated $2,500 to them. Thank you to all the members that donated and keeping GSO going. Also, we have Tony's talks on YouTube.
This will be on. This will be on in the next couple of days. Everybody enjoying this format? Everybody kind of new stuff, really exciting stuff. Really, anybody having too much conflict with the new stuff they're reading here? Right on. You guys are awesome. I know I get excited. Joe, you get excited, Joe?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right on.
Just remember, everyone, the clocks go back an hour on Sunday too, right? So don't miss Joe's Big Book study because you'll miss an hour or you'll show up earlier. Yeah.
It's okay. Joe can start from the beginning again if you show up late.
Yeah, God brings who He brings there, man. I don't doubt what He does.
So read Step 11 this week every day if you can. Just spend and highlight like you've never read it before, and you're reading it to see how they do Step 11 and the purpose of what they're talking about, and look for something really key. We'll see how many people can do how they start Step 11. Look on how they start Step 11 and see if anybody can catch it, and I'll tell you the secret next week. Okay, why it's a transition, and Step 11 is what this whole thing is about. Anyways, Joe, we'll close with a third step prayer. What makes this all possible?
God, I offer myself to Thee. To build with me, and to do with me as Thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do Thy will. Take away my difficulties, the victory over them, may bear witness to those that I would help of Thy power, Thy love, Thy way of life. May I do Thy will always.
May the force be with you. Live long and prosperous. You guys are awesome. I need to have dinner. I'm wiped.